All right, we're back here on Overtime on the internet, and we're being joined by the doctor. Are you a real doctor, Frank?
PhD from Oxford.
Really? Oxford?
That's fancy.
Mississippi.
I was gonna...
Well played. Well played, Frank.
Affirmative action.
Oh, Frank. Okay. So, okay, this is one for you, Will Kane. Do you think Americans have given terrorism at least some power by letting fear of violence dictate the extent to which our government is willing to criticize... Oh, man, this guy talks like Obama at a debate. Criticize religious leadership in the Middle East. I couldn't follow it either, but what do you think about this?
It's a free speech question.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh,
yes.
You're with me on this one.
Yes, yes.
You
Christopher Hitchens once said that the offensive speech is the most important to protect. If one guy stands up and he's the heretic in the room and he goes against every other consensus, his opinion becomes the most important. I fully believe that, and when you're speaking about religion, the most.
Do you think this Benghazi Gate thing is anything? I've heard you talk about it on Fox, Frank.
It's the one thing that you and I agree with. I think we agree, which is that there aren't equal allies in the Middle East. We have one ally, and that ally is Israel, and we should defend it and stand up for it.
That's true. But I mean, I feel like the Republicans, many of them feel like what happened in Benghazi was something that could have been prevented, or that somehow the administration's response to it is corrupt, and I don't know where they're getting that. I mean, yes, they did not know immediately what kind of an attack it was. They thought it might have been a spontaneous uprising on 9/11. What?
Yeah, I'm not buying any of that right there.
What do you think happened?
Within 24 hours, Eli Lake at the Daily Beast has been reporting on this. They knew that 4 terrorists did this. They knew where one of them was. And within a week later, 2 weeks later, Susan Rice was still going out on the Sunday talk show circuit saying it was a spontaneous reaction to that Innocence of Muslims video. They were just propagating something that was not true.
But that proves that, what, Obama's a Muslim Brotherhood member?
I didn't say any of that. I didn't say any of that.
I'm just asking what
I think it proves incompetence, negligence, and some form of deception for covering up for the negligence, I guess.
You left out leading from behind.
But what does it say?
It's always leading from behind. That's their big...
What does it say that there's a group of people that riot because of a stupid film?
No, we're talking about the attack, not the riot.
Exactly.
It's insane.
Why do we always have to be responsible because they're fucking nuts? Okay.
But if the administration believes, again, back to the earlier comment I made, if they believe that this little video caused that uprising, they should put a halt to the Navy SEALs film that's about to come out.
Right.
Because if you're wanting to light up the Middle East, let them get on that show.
It'll always be something.
It's always something.
Right.
It's always something. And so,
right.
The interesting thing was that the people in Benghazi then took care of this problem in a certain way, right? Fairly bravely.
Well, I mean, that's what I don't hear on Fox News, that we made Libya our friends. They love us now. We got rid of the bad man, and we made a friend, which we need around the world.
Yeah, but you don't hear that on Fox News because you don't watch Fox News.
I do sometimes watch Fox News, Frank.
Do you ever see the groups I do?
Of course.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Frank, what? How do you think I know to refer to you as evil? Frank, what would you say, here's a question, to the Republican voters who believe that the polls are skewed in favor of the Democrats? Now, I heard this a lot recently, that they think the polls are a liberal conspiracy.
Stop complaining about it. You're going to have good polls, you're going to have bad polls. Focus on the issues, focus on what's going on, focus on what the candidates are saying. And if you're going to blame the polls, then they're going to come back and blame you.
And what do you think about this Rasmussen poll? Because some people say that this guy, who's a conservative pollster, he somehow comes out with polls that don't agree with any of the other polls and have Romney ahead, that he's the one who's...
And yet he was the most accurate. And I've heard the criticism. He was the most accurate in 2008. He had Barack Obama within less than 1% of his actual total in 2008.
You always wonder where the pollsters get their data.
Jail.
I was down 14 points in a Florida race in '92, and I was down 12, and I won by 14, 2 weeks out.
Wow.
So if I read that poll, and I would have gone home and cried.
Why do you think that was?
I just think sometimes they call the same people. Polling data today, mobile phones, telecommunications different than it used to be.
But in '92, there weren't any cell phones.
No.
I mean...
Well, they were about this size.
Yeah, right.
Line up with a satellite.
But, I mean, I often wonder about that same thing. The people who are answering the phones are not indicative of the nation.
They're
who
not at
enters a
all.
land? I don't remember the
A
last time I entered a
landline.
landline.
And again, you're worried of what's the purpose of the call? What are they doing with the data? So sometimes to get them off, yeah, I support that guy, whoever it is you said. And then once they get you on the phone long enough, the push poll starts. If you knew this about it, what would you do? Pretty soon, you've gone from this popular guy to the piece of dirt, and it's all push polling.
But anyone who's such a lonely, cat-hoarding loser that they would talk to a pollster for 20
minutes
on a landline
Sorry to
is
those
the
who
typical
responded.
American voter. That's who that. Okay.
You talked to me tonight.
What's that?
You talked to me tonight.
But Frank, stop. Bill, what one action would make the most immediate positive impact on our environment? Oh, I think I know. Carbon tax, right? A direct carbon tax?
Well, if you're asking, I mean, internalizing the externalities, as the economists say, making carbon pay the price for the damage it does, ending the kind of ability of the greatest special break any industry ever got, the fossil fuel industry allowed to pour its waste out for free, that would help. But the only way we're going to get there, if the question is, what's the thing that an ordinary person could do that would help the most? The answer to that is organize. I mean, if we don't build a movement to do this, then it's not going to happen.
Right. Recycling is not going to,
Right. I mean, changing the light bulb is nice, but changing this structure, this system is
I always
a lot more
say
important.
it's like saying we could have won World War II by saving tin. Yes, did people save
No.
tin? Did it help? Yes. But it also helped that within 1 year, FDR
Every
said, you know what?
factory-
Yes,
Yeah.
there was no more cars made. Everything made, tanks and planes. You know, in 1943, you know how many cars were made in America? 139. Not 139,000, 139 cars. And they were probably all for generals, you know, like
But
big cars.
economics changes this debate. I mean, I remember in Florida when gas prices started rising, I was fighting offshore drilling. As soon as gases got to a certain point, everybody said, no, never mind, go ahead and drill. And you'll find that today in California, $5, $5.50. People lose their sentimentality for the environment. They just want oil. So I'm telling you, the economics play a role here where normal people who would have heretofore said, I'm with you, getting rid of fossil fuels, all of a sudden said, just kidding. My Prius at 50 miles a gallon.
But this is what I was trying to ask on the show. What has to happen where that scale tips? Where, I mean, you called it sentimentality. I mean, we have these horrible droughts. I mean, people are, the UN report said 400,000 people worldwide now die every year because of global warming. I mean, you have to have two heads?
Maybe when the presidential candidates show up in Iowa, it's gone. You know,
That's right.
there's nothing to debate.
That's where the first debate is, and it doesn't exist. Mitt Romney's there in a hazmat suit singing God Bless America.
Think of our energy policy. We actually turn corn into fuel. If that isn't the stupidest thing.
It was stupid.
It
right.
remains stupid.
Right. And that's because
We can't feed kids, we can't feed the poor and hungry, but we're sitting there.
And that's because
now
the
we
first
can't grow the
primary
corn.
is in Iowa.
Absolutely.
And both candidates have to pander to people
Right.
who grow corn. All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you, panel. You were great. We'll see you next week.
Real Time with Bill Maher, Friday night at 10. Ask Bill and his guests your questions right after the show at HBO.com.